Morning, everybody. I welcome you all in the second class of glaucoma. Fovea is the most sensitive part of retina, and as we go toward periphery from the center, the sensitivity decreases. When we plot a graph of sensitivity, the peak corresponds with the fovea, and as we go toward periphery, the sensitivity decreases, and the lines joining the area of equal sensitivity is called isopter. But nowadays, this is tested digitally from point to point, and each point is given a number in decibel, which represents sensitivity of the retina. In this, a spot of light is thrown over the retina, and the number is given according to the dimness of the light. If a person can see here the dim light, it is given high number, which is in decibel, and if a person can see no light, it is given 0, again in decibel, and in between the points numbers are attributed to different various points depending upon the program which we are using. Here you can see the lights thrown on different parts, and the sensitivity is recorded in decibels. Then this means that this is a hill of vision, that is graph plotted according to the sensitivity for that patient. And then this hill of vision is matched with same age normal people of the world or data. Here we can see that the hill of vision of normal people is higher than this particular patient. So we can conclude that this particular person has lesser sensitivity of retina than when compared to the normal people of the same age. At the same time, when we see that there is further depression in the sensitivity in a particular area of that patient also, of the same patient, that is, this is more sensitive than this, but as we know that this area is central to this, so it had to be higher sensitive, but here you can see that sensitivity is less than its periphery, means the sensitivity is decreased due to some reason, and such area of decreased sensitivity as compared to its surrounding is called scotoma. Here again the points are noted according to sensitivity, and each point is tested or rather compared with normal population. If it lies within the normal area, it is shown in lighter color. When it is outside the normal area, that is normal population, this is shown in dark color. We call it gray chart or gray scale. This is a visual field chart from Humphrey Visual Field. Here you can see that different points of retina sensitivity has been recorded in numbers. These are in decibels. More the number, it is more sensitive. And these numbers are compared with the normative data, that is the data sensitivity of the normal people from the same age. And then if it is almost same, then it is shown in lighter color, and when it is less than the normal people, this is shown in darker color. We call it grayscale. Here you can see that then this absolute data is compared with the normative data, that is population of normal people and their sensitivity. You can see that most of the points are in negative. This means that hill of vision of this person is smaller than that of the normal people. And this is shown in grayscale again. At the same time, when the hill of within the hill of the vision, when the relatively equidistant points are compared, as we know that center is the most sensitive part and periphery is the less sensitive part. So periphery, this distance peripheral and this distance from this distance from the center and this distance from the center, they should be same. But here we can see that the superior half has more negative numbers than the inferior half. Means superior is less sensitive to light than the inferior. And this should match. But here it is not matching, it is less sensitive. So it is shown in dark. And so this is a scotoma superiorly. And these are basically matched as a mirror image from here to here, here to here, and here to here, here to here. And these are recorded as glaucoma Hemphill test, which is here, it is clearly shown, that is, it is outside normal limits. This is a OCT chart, that is optical coherence tomography chart, showing retinal nerve fiber layer thickness. As we know that in glaucoma, the ganglion cell is lost, and so its axons, that is retinal nerve fiber layer, is also lost. So that thick layer gets thin in the area of nerve damage. And as we know that all the retinal nerve fibers converge on the optic disc. So a standard pattern of measuring the retinal thickness is that around the disc a circle of 3.4 mm diameter is drawn, and at this circle thickness of the retina is measured, and this measured, and point wise it is measured, and each point is matched with the normative data, that is thickness of the retina in normal population of the same age. If it is in the same range, this is shown in green color, that is normal, and if it is thin, it is shown in red. Green is normal, yellow shows borderline variation from the normal. And the same data can be seen in this graph also. Here this circle is cut temporally and is spread like this, that is from temporal to superior to nasal to inferior, then temporal. And for each eye, if this thickness remains in the green zone, means it is normal, and if some part of this dips into the red zone, it means that retinal nerve fiber layer is thin here. And in this manner, anatomically, we can see the real damage of the retinal nerve fiber layer due to glaucoma. By adaptation into the same optical coherent tomographic machine, anterior part of the eye can also be visualized. We call it anterior segment OCT. You can see the angle, that is iridocorneal angle, easily. You can see the scleral spur, Schwalbe's line. Here, anterior chamber is well connected with the trabecular meshwork. Here in this anterior chamber, and trabecular meshwork is blocked due to iris. So there is no connection between the anterior chamber and trabecular meshwork. So this is closed angle and this is open angle. Intraocular pressure is also affected by thickness of the cornea. If the cornea is thin, the intraocular pressure may measure lesser than it is. So it has to be corrected accordingly. The same thing can be seen and measured with ultrasound biomicroscopy also. This is a very high frequency ultrasound machine, its resolution is very good. Apart from angle, this anterior chamber depth can also be measured. Lens vaulting can also be measured, which is nowadays used in the management of glaucoma. So what should be the goal of the treatment? As in any other disease, the goal of treatment is the same, that is to maintain a good quality of life of the patient. In glaucoma also, the aim is same, that is to prevent the progression of the disease, thus maintaining a good quality of vision and quality of life. Normally, the people have intraocular pressure ranging between 15 to 21 millimeter of Hg. But this is not a guarantee of normal people. Even in persons, it has been seen that whose intraocular pressure is in between the so-called normal intraocular pressure range, that is 15 to 21, patient may get visual field defect, and it may progress also. So the concept of target intraocular pressure has come. It means that intraocular pressure level at which we believe that further glaucomatous optic neuropathy is unlikely to occur. So it is called ideal pressure or safe level of pressure. This is patient specific, eye specific. The patient may lie in the normal range of the normal intraocular pressure, but may be showing further damage to the visual fields and quality of the vision. For the management of glaucoma, it is by convention based on visual field or OCT. It is categorized as mild, moderate or severe, and as a thumb rule, more advanced the glaucoma is, the lower the IOP must be. That is, we should be more aggressive to protect whatever optic nerve tissue is, to protect whatever optic nerve tissue the patient has left. For a mild damage, the intraocular pressure should be reduced by 20 to 30% from baseline intraocular pressure. The baseline intraocular pressure is the intraocular pressure which was recorded when the patient was first diagnosed as glaucoma and he was not on treatment, or if it can also be modified when the treatment was not sufficient. So for a new case, when there is mild damage, reduction of intraocular pressure by 20 to 30%. In cases of moderate damage, 30 to 35%, and in severe cases of damage, 40 to 50% reduction should be done. And then regular monitoring with visual field should be done to see whether the glaucoma is static or progressing. If progression is still there, change in treatment is needed. And what are the treatment modalities which are available to us? The most common treatment method is topical medication. Other than this, we have lasers as ALT and SLT. YAG laser is also used for peripheral iridotomy, and surgery is mostly used in the last in cases of glaucoma. But in congenital glaucoma, surgery is the most preferred choice. The algorithm of treatment of glaucoma is very simple. You diagnose the case, estimate the target pressure, and start one topical medication, and then measure the intraocular pressure. If the target pressure is achieved, it's good, and you keep the patient on that medication and then review the patients at around reasonably good time, that is 6 months, review with the visual fields, and if there is no deterioration in the visual field, you continue with that same medication. And if the target pressure is not reached, then either you change the medication or add another medication to this. And again, the same patient is followed and seen if intraocular pressure has reached to its target pressure or not. If not, then again you change the treatment, and if it is, then you follow up the patient and see after 6 months and again measure the visual field. If the visual field shows no further deterioration, you continue the patient on the same treatment. If the visual field is deteriorating, you change the treatment modalities. What are the anti-glaucoma medications available to us? These are prostaglandin analogs, beta blockers, adrenergic agonists, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, cholinergic agonist, and these are all topical medications which are most preferred. Systemic agents are also used, and these are carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, that is acetazolamide, or hyperosmotic agents like mannitol and glycerol. These are basically used in cases of emergency as well as when the patient is in waiting period for surgery. Beta blocker is one of the most important anti-glaucoma medication because it's very potent and has very few side effects and very cheap also as compared to other medications. It reduces aqueous secretion from the ciliary body, and in this way it controls it decreases the intraocular pressure and controls glaucoma. It's very effective and reduces 25 to 30% intraocular pressure from baseline, but it has a doubtful nighttime efficacy, and it is administered as twice daily dose, and the most commonly used is timolol. Betoxolol is another drug which is important to know because it is a beta-1 selective receptor. It acts on beta-1 receptors. So it has a fewer side effects and than the non-selective timolols. Prostaglandin analogs are one of the very important medication used in glaucoma. They decrease intraocular pressure by increasing the UV scleral outflow, and they are very potent. And one more advantage is seen with this, that they give better control of diurnal and nocturnal IOP variations, and they are used once a day, and total overall IOP reduction is around 30% to 35% from baseline. So for most of the population, it is first line of therapy of glaucoma, and the most important prostaglandin analogs which are used is latanoprost, bimatoprost, travoprost, and now uniprost, etc. Carbonic anhydrase inhibitors as another group of drug which decreases aqueous production by inhibiting carbonic anhydrase enzyme in the ciliary process, and they are very potent. And acetazolamide, that can be used orally also, while dorzolamide and brinzolamide are used topically. So acetazolamide is also an emergency drug, but long-term therapy with this acetazolamide, which is oral carbonic anhydrase enzyme inhibitor, is difficult because it has certain problems. But dorzolamide and brinzolamides are used for long term also. Alpha adrenergic agonist, in this we are using brimodine, which is alpha 2 adrenergic agonist. This is also used twice or thrice daily, and its IOP reduction is 20 to 25%. And they are very effective, especially in post-laser IOP high. One of the important drug, pilocarpine, which is a cholinergic agonist drug. This increases trabecular meshwork outflow as well as uvascular outflow. It's a very potent drug, but it requires repeated administration, and but it has some problem which I will be discussing just now. So, as all the drugs have some other effects which are unwanted, we call it side effects. So, prostaglandin analog is also associated with darkening of the periocular skin and iris pigmentation as well as elongation and darkening of the eyelashes. Another important problem is atrophy of the orbital fat. In this, the eyes get shrunken and people think that the person is sick. And at the same time, it is contraindicated when there is inflammation in the eye. Beta blockers are very safe drug, but it has been seen that they have long-term tachyphylaxis, that they become less effective when used for years. So many a time you will have to give holiday for this drug, and it is also associated with the dryness. But since it is beta blocker, it can severely depress cardiac as well as lung function. So this should not be given AV block or sinus bradycardia or asthmatic or COPD patients. Carbonic anhydrase are very safe drug, except in oral, when it is given in oral as acetazolamide. Acetazolamide is a sulfur drug, so any hypersensitivity reaction to sulfur drug should be asked for, and when it is there, it should not be given. Topically, it can cause slight erosion of the cornea. We call it punctate keratitis, an allergy, of course. And in oral, when we are giving oral acetazolamide, you can develop bitter taste, metallic taste, headache, paresthesia, tingling and numbness. And for long, if you used for long period, it can cause renal calculation. Cholinergic drugs has a very peculiar effect of giving miosis, that is, pupil get smaller. So in older patient, the vision may reduce during night time, and at the same time it causes accommodation. So younger patient may develop accommodative spasm, and accommodation may lead to brow ache and headache and blurred vision, and this is again contraindicated in uveitis and other inflammation of the inflammatory. Angle closure glaucoma, when it is acute, this can present as emergency with severe pain, watering, diminished vision, and aggressive treatment is needed because there is threatened damage to the optic nerve which can cause permanent loss of the vision. So this should be managed as an emergency also. But when there is chronicity of angle closure glaucoma, still the management is more likely as an open angle glaucoma, but the window period for damage to severe damage is very less. So must be seen with more caution. And peripheral iridectomy must be done in the same eye as well as in the fellow eye, which seems to be normal at that time of point. So, but it may or may not decrease IOP, but it certainly decreases the progression of. So, as we have discussed, acute angle closure may present as an emergency, or if any other glaucoma in which the pressure is very high, around 40-50, because of any reason, it can cause permanent damage to the optic nerve. So it should be managed on an emergency basis, and the treatment protocol is oral acetazolamide, oral carbonic anhydrase, and intravenous mannitol 20% should be given fast, and oral glycerol is also used, Along with this, topical medications like prostaglandin analogues, tremolone and pilocarpine can also be given. And the pressure has to be reduced as early as possible. If it is not happening, we must think of some other treatment modality. A typical presentation of angle closure glaucoma, in which you see cornea is edematous, eye is red. This is a presentation of acute angle closure glaucoma. And here you can see that the shape of iris is bowing anteriorly. This is because due to uveitis, the pupillary margin got stuck with the anterior surface of the lens. So the aqueous from the ciliary body and posterior chamber could not reach into the anterior chamber. So due to this, their iris is bowing anteriorly, and this further causes obstruction to the angle. So such things cause angle closure glaucoma, and this shape of the iris is called iris bombi. You can see the hole made by laser. When the condition is relieved, you can see the atrophy of the iris because of anoxia during the acute phase. Secondary glaucoma. Secondary glaucoma are those glaucoma in which the cause of glaucoma is known. In cases of Posner-Schlossman glaucoma, there is glaucomatocyclitic crisis. That is, there is acute unilateral recurrent attack of elevated intraocular pressure accompanied by mild anterior chamber inflammation. So treatment is reduction in the intraocular pressure along with treatment of the uveitis. Steroid-induced glaucoma occurs when the patient is on long-term topical steroid or systemic steroid because of eye diseases or any other systemic diseases like eczema, SLE, or any autoimmune disease. And there is anterior angle closure glaucoma with posterior synechia, that is iris bombi. In this, due to uveitis, the iris pupil margin and iris get stuck to the lens, and this causes angle closure glaucoma. So treatment of uveitis should be given, and pupils should be dilated with atropine, and this will relieve this posterior synechia, and the glaucoma will be controlled. And for the time being, you can add anti-glaucoma medications. Phacolytic glaucoma. This is a glaucoma especially seen in hypermature cataracts. In this, the lens protein leaks outside into the anterior chamber and causes inflammation of the uvea. So this is a type of uveitis associated with increased intraocular pressure. So the treatment is control of uveitis with steroids and removal of the cataract. Phacomorphic glaucoma is the glaucoma in which the lens has swollen due to cataract or intumescence, and this pushes the iris anteriorly, which blocks the angle of the eye, that is iridocorneal angle. So treatment again here is the removal of the lens, that is removal of the cataract. Ectopia lentis. This is a condition in which the lens is not in its normal position. That is, it is in a different place. If it is in the pupil, it might block the pupil and cause glaucoma. At the same time, it might enter into the anterior chamber. It can cause glaucoma, or it can push the iris anteriorly so that it can block the iridocorneal angle. So again cause glaucoma. So treatment is again here is removal of the lens. Now, post-traumatic glaucoma. Trauma can cause glaucoma in the early phase, that is just after the trauma, because of certain uveitis and trabecular meshwork inflammation. But in longer duration, that is after 5 to 10 years, there may be iridodialysis, which has occurred at the time of injury, might have got scarred and caused glaucoma. We call it post-traumatic glaucoma. And intraocular tumors, which takes the volume of the eye and raises the intraocular pressure and cause glaucoma. So treatment in these cases is basically the treatment of intraocular tumor. Congenital glaucoma, which usually presents as ophthalmos, that is large sized eye and photophobia and watering. Surgery is the mainstay of the treatment. In this, treatment is trabeculotomy or goniotomy, with or without trabeculectomy with mitomycin C. Medical management is insufficient and not effective in congenital glaucoma. What is done in trabeculectomy? In this, conjunctiva is disinserted from the limbus and withdrawn toward the fornix. And then a partial thickness flap is created over the sclera after a mild cautery to prevent bleeding. Then in the sclera, a hole is made at the junction of the cornea and sclera, that is called surgical limbus. Here is the raised partial thickness flap, and when this hole is made with the help of sharp instrument or a punch like instrument, there is gush of aqueous from the anterior chamber toward this sclera, and at the same time iris may come out or prolapse through this. This iris is cut. This is called iridotomy, and then this flap is resutured. This flap is resutured from where it was raised with the help of 10-0 or 11-0 nylon stitches, and this is not very tight, and the aqueous flows from anterior chamber through the ostium which we made and from below the surface of the partial thickness scleral flap toward the posterior side, and then we resuture this disinserted conjunctiva from where it was removed, that is at the limbus, and again made sutured very tightly here so that there is no leakage of the aqueous, and this aqueous starts accumulating below the conjunctiva, and the conjunctiva is raised, we call it phlegm. But as we know that every wound is destined to heal, so there is high chance that there will be healing and scarring of these wounds and the conjunctiva, and the blood will start shrinking over a period of time. So to prevent this, we use antifibrotic agents like mitomycin C. This slows down the healing process and thus saves the damage due to glaucoma. Trabeculectomy is one of the most commonly performed surgery in cases of glaucoma. I say thank you to all. In case of any difficulty, you can write to me at my Gmail sudhirkumar10000@gmail.com. Thank you.